So we have just witnessed a historic victory for the Fijians over England, 30 points to 22 in this game at Twickenham. Now, before this game, the closest margin that Fiji had lost by was 17 points. So to be able to not just turn that around, but also walk away with the victory, it was a massive performance from the team. And in this review, we'll be looking at how they were able to do it. But in this game, England were able to get themselves the early lead, getting the 3 points of George Ford, and then also scoring themselves the early try of Johnny May. I was a little bit surprised that England decided to take on the 3. It is always nice to have those points on the board early, of course, but with a team that has struggled to score tries over the last few performances, it would have been nice to see them be a bit more aggressive, definitely because in the past, Fiji's rolling maul defence has been somewhere that they have struggled with, although I will mention in this game, they were pretty strong in that department, not allowing the English to get those meters. But Johnny May was able to score himself a try. Also alongside him, we saw some impact off the bench for the English with Marcus Smith, as well as Joe March and 2 Harlequins players getting themselves the other 2 tries. So England scoring 3 times in this game, which is actually more than they have scored throughout all of their August fixtures so far. So in some ways, that's still a little bit of progress, but nowhere near as much as they would have liked heading into this Rugby World Cup. For the Fijians, we saw the disallowed try of Waisia Naiathalevu after he did receive a forward pass from Celestino Ravatamunda, but then the 2 decided why not try it again, and it was successful the second time. Naiathalevu running in the first try. We also saw a try from Simeone Kuravuli off the bench. Does look very strong, and to be honest, he might be jockeying for that number 9 starting jersey ahead of Frank Lamani from the impact we've seen from him over the last few weeks. And then also Vinaya Habosi. At the start of the game, I said he was 100% going to score himself a try, and luckily that prediction was correct. But overall for Fiji, even though the weather wasn't really playing ball, we had thunderstorms, we had lightning, rain, and then also sunshine near the end of the game. That all rhymed. They were still able to manage the game relatively well after giving away a lot of territory. Earlier on to England at halftime, the score was sitting 8 points to 3 in this contest. So a relatively close one, but in the second half, the Fijians a lot more clinical, being able to score themselves a lot of points. And that just makes Pool C that little bit more intriguing now that we know that the Fijians have come to play. We already knew after the Pacific Nations Cup that they were going to be a contender in that group. But now I feel like after this win up against England, they have certainly cemented it. But there were a few players who stepped up big time in this game. First of which, Lekema Tangitangivalu. We saw a lot of him in the first half. The number 7, he was able to have some solid runs down the wing, as well as just being physical in the breakdown, crashing the ball up, which is exactly what Fiji needed to do up against this English side. Try and play that physical game and get England on the back foot. And Tangitangivalu was able to do just that. Another solid performance from Sam Matavesi. There were a couple lineouts that went a little bit wonky, but overall, it was with his help at lineout as well as in the breakdown that actually helped the Fijians quite a bit. And then in the back line, Caleb Muntz kicking at 100% accuracy. I know that there were a lot of talks about whether or not he was the right option for fly half rather than having Ben Villa in the squad. But now after this performance, I think a lot more people are saying he is certainly the right choice. He just seemed to have such control at number 10. George Ford at times for England was looking relatively solid, but it seemed to be that England were too willing to give that ball away to the Fijians, and giving away unnecessary possession to the Fijians is just asking to have tries scored against you. And speaking of try scorers, he didn't manage to get one in this game, but he helped set up quite a few. Celestino Ravatamunda, like I mentioned in the early stages of the game when he conceded that try out on his wing with Johnny May scoring, I thought it was going to be a long day at the office, but he proved everyone wrong after that, managed to fire back brilliantly. He was everywhere on the back line, making solid tackles. I think overall for Fiji, they just played more as a team than we saw England. England seemed to have it that the backs were doing one thing, the forwards were doing another, and they weren't really hitting that cohesion between the two. Whereas Fiji, they were on the same wavelength. Vinaya Habosi, his run round the side of the breakdown to score the try was extremely impressive. So he is definitely one to watch out for throughout this Rugby World Cup. I know that people will talk about the controversies of this game a little bit in terms of the refereeing. I don't want to really talk about it too much because at the end of the day, in the history book, the Fijians have won this game. They won't look at all the little decisions that happened throughout the game. Maybe England got away with a couple, I will say that. But overall, Fiji, if anything, that just showed more determination, more heart, and more will to win this game for the first time at Twickenham. But it was a very impressive performance, like I mentioned. Pool C is going to be entertaining. Same with Pool D in the Rugby World Cup, and we will be covering them all on the channel. So if you are new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. But let me know what you thought of this Fijian and English performance in the comments down below, and I will see you all for the next one.